Hello everyone, my name's Tris and this is Double O Now. Today I'd like to talk to you about ballasting, and it's kind of that big step because once ballasting is done you can move on to scenics and other certain details you've been holding off, like I'd like to put lights in and things. So with the scenics and ballasting done, or to a certain point, you can really move on with the layout. Also the layout really transforms, so it starts just looking like something that you can present to people and say this is what I'm working on, whereas at the moment it feels a bit more like a skeleton with a few buildings as well as the just the bits of track and stuff, and we can have some fun, we can have a play with it, but we need to move on from there. So that's where ballasting comes in. I've got some ballast right selection here that I've had for a while. I've been working my way through. You can probably see which one was my favorite, but looking through the options, you've got knock, got gauge and master. I put this into a resealable bag because some of the companies don't always give you bags that you can reseal, whereas like these Woodland Scenics boxes, tubs are very good because you've got the bit where you can get a teaspoon in there, or you've got the small holes just there so you can shake it out with that. A lot of people have different ways of doing this. My brother showed me a way a number of years ago and I've kind of stuck to it. I might have deviated without realising, but thanks to him when I first started, had a good teacher. He's been doing this for a long time and knows what he's doing. You have medium ballasts as well as fine and medium. It's kind of how it looks on the packet. So here you have really fine granules versus really chunky granules. The advantage of the chunky is that it's not going to get into all the nooks and crannies of your points so easy when you want to put the ballast on them, whereas the fine ballast looks a bit more realistic. You could mix the two so you get a blend of the both, and the other factors coming are the colourings going on there. You know, you might find the area that you like to model or that you like going to, that you want to make it kind of seem like anyway, might just have a grey ballast, or you might have one that has pink or blue ballast. You might have some brown ballast. You've got the mixed blends of grey there. Got some here by Knock that are very white coloured, you know, so it's quite interesting. Look at this Gauge Master stuff, it's quite chunky as well. So consider, you know, when you're picking it up, what you want to work with. Do you want to have a bit of an easier time, or do you want it to be that a little bit more realistic where you have to put a bit more work into a bit more effort? Okay, I have talked to my friend Carl and he's explained about sections of layouts where you have old and new ballast and they'll be in different colours. So the idea on this layout to have some different colours on here, so maybe we use a mix of the medium ballast, maybe mix these two together, and that can be the older one coming to the line, and then we have a load of new ballast which is purely grey on there, or we go to the white. You know, would that be there in real life? Do we mix some of the white with this? You know, who knows? Once you've decided what colour you're going to use, for me, I'm going to have it patchy after talking to my friend Carl just now. He says, you know, no layout or real railway normally has the same colour going all the way around, and you might have sections which have a little bit of this colour, and they might have had to replace a rail, so then they've added in some replacement ballast that's been kicking around and stuff like that. Obviously when we put it on, we need to apply it in some way, so we could go straight from the tub. If we use straight from the tub, we have to be careful when you're pouring it, a bit too much might go on. So we can put it into a pot, a top of a spray can. Do that, put little bits on. Once that's in place, obviously we can move it around into position, and one thing that my brother showed me was to use a nice wide brush, and we dab it along and we get that sorted. But I'm going to show you that as well. Once you've got it to most of the nice points, you'll find that there'll be the odd bit kicking around and the brush just never seems to sort it out. So what people generally do is they tap the track with a spoon, so I have a teaspoon on hand. Then what I've got is some water mixer with some isopropyl alcohol 50/50. This is a trusty bottle I've had since doing it. I haven't actually had to fill it up yet. And I'll be then squirting the layout with this. What that does is allow the glue, which is our mix here, to wick through. So you have retention with all these bits with the water. It globules up and it won't go in. So what we find is that when we use this, it helps go through. What you will find though, if you use this plus you're doing the gluing, you need to give it a lot of time to dry. I don't mean like an hour, I mean like leave it 2 days to go rock hard, because I find it takes a long time for it to dry. But in a warm house maybe it would do it quicker. Then I have some jam. to glue it together. But this isn't jam, this is white glue, which is a trusty pot. I can't even take the lid off anymore because I glued it together. So put a hole in. I've got my pipette here, which I use for applying it. So I've got a pipette that I can then squirt out where I need to, what we want. And in here, so we've got PVA glue. So PVA glue, let's say there's not too much there, it's to a low level, but a tiny bit of washing detergent in there. And that also helps with getting through the surface. And then mostly water, and you want a nice, really thin mix of this glue. And what you'll find is if it's too thick, you'll see the glue for ages settling on the surface. It will be almost white when it goes on. You know when it's right because it will go on almost clear. But don't worry if you do get some whiteness from it. It will work out well. So we dispense it, we sort it out, organise the last few bits, we sort out the preparation of the track or the ballast, and then we glue it on, and then we leave it for a very long time. I found a bag that's got some pinky tones to it, which is fantastic. It's from a brand that I can't remember the name of, but I'll put it in the link below if I find it. So what we're going to do is we're going to pour some of that in here. You can see that pinky tone a little bit. Just a bit too much in, because you can always come back. So that's that. It's quite a nice colour. So what am I going to aim for? So I want to do this section maybe up to the point. I'll just twist you around. So we get to the point, and to be honest with the points, leave a bit of room around it. We can always come back later, but allow the switch blades to have some room, and we can add it in a small way afterwards. And even if you're not using the same colour, I think that would be fine. They could have been sorting out, you know, some sleepers that they've replaced. So we'll do the pinky line here and maybe run it across, you know, to some of the other points and down to some of the other areas. So like Carl explained to me, you don't have to have everything as the same colour. I'll put the spoon down, make some noise. So I've made this a bit harder for me to do things as I'm trying to film it. But basically what we want to do, we want to get some of the ballast. It's okay if you don't get everything perfect because you can always add later. Okay, so I'm just going to drop it in where I think I need it. And you can use a small brush. You don't have to use the big brush because a small brush can help sweep things around. And you don't have to do too much in one go. So maybe you start with like do 8 inches. And then you can do, you know, another 8 inches. What you put down the centre will spread. So if we walk this way with it, okay, it will knock over the edges and it will start covering the bits of the sleeper that you want. In a second, I'll do a top-down view and you can see a bit more of it. So I'm going to knock that around there. I might have to use a small brush for this end. But what we can now do is what my brother showed me originally. We just come along with the brush and don't fret too much. It doesn't have to be perfect. We come along here. And obviously that spreads out then over about 10 inches, you see. And that goes there. You'll see the little bits that are sitting on the sleepers. Again, that would happen in real life. But if you're that stressed about it, keep giving a little tap. Kind of organise itself down. And any little ones that are in the way, you can just knock them down. So obviously when you give it a tap, it just reorganises it. But down here, that ballasting will be fine. And then we just continue across here. What I'll do is off camera, do a chunk of this. Because what you want to do is do this main bit. And then when you're going to be doing the gluing, you don't really want to start mixing up gluing and then dry sections because you might end up knocking around the glued bit. So what I'm going to do is the majority of the layout with all of it dry, and I do a load of gluing, then come back another day to then continue the next stage of it all. Consider that some of the ballast might be shared over to the other side, but there will be bits of grass growing and stuff like that. But just don't overthink it at the same time and have some fun when you're doing it. A lot of people find this quite stressful. It's honestly quite a nice process to do. Just take your time. You don't have to get it done in 20 seconds. You could spend, you know, just one night just doing this, but if you really want to, then come back the next day. Am I happy? Yes or no? And then you go from there. Like I say, get a little brush if you need to, if you're not happy with using a big brush, but just dab down with it and it will organise itself bit by bit with those little bristles. And I'm sure you'll have a great time. It's taken about an hour with a bit of pottering around, watching YouTube videos and things like that. but we've added in our ballast. Around the points, I've left areas not done. I can come back to that later. Use a little bit of neat PVA and glue exactly where I want it to go. Make sure that the points still move so we can click them over, and there's no ballast underneath that's going to stop them from working. Okay, and then the same for these ones over here. We've got the 3-way just there, and this one here, so that goes, it doesn't crunch when we do it. I've also done the track that leads on, because you never know, I might decorate the area that I add, you know, to the fiddle yard type thing, and it comes off. So that's that. You can see the different shades here. I've got pinky and pinky, there's a bit of grey there. I've got grey with speckles on this, and we'll end up tying a lot of it kind of together when we do a little bit of weathering afterwards. Quite rightly pointed out, you know, these track bits get dirty. I'm sure it'll be a bit oily around here when the diesel sits in there. I have big oil patches underneath, which will be a lot of fun. Now we're going to do the session of gluing. I'm going to show you that. Don't worry about if you start getting bits of the ballast moving around, because it will do when you introduce some liquid, because it'll lift bits and move bits. Once it's drying or almost dry, you can pick little bits off if they're upsetting you, but don't mess around with it once you've started gluing. It's good to monitor where you're gluing everything, because you might end up not gluing certain parts. So we're going to start in this back section here and work our way all the way up to the point. What I do is I get my 50-50 mix, give it a shake. So I don't want to knock around the you know, the surface I've been working on too much, but you know, bits will get moved around on it, but don't worry, like I said. So I put enough of this on that we wet the surface. See if I can get some in the had to fill up the tube. Right, so we're just going to wet down this surface, and you know the bits that you haven't wet down enough, because when you put the glue on it might not seep through, but like I've said before, the watered down glue has got the fairy liquid in. Sorry, I'm kind of doing two things at once. So I've just made a mark where I've put the watered down watered down isopropanol down onto. So that's there, and now I'm going to use my glue. Hopefully it's thin enough. I'm going to start around here and just drop it in both sides. I'm just going to make sure we do everything. If you've been watching the videos previously, you'll know that I've added holes to do the electrical wiring, so you will end up getting some puddles onto the work surface. So whatever work surface you're working on, you might feel that you need to or basically cover things up, otherwise you end up with some PVA glue drying everywhere. Surface I've got, it's a kind of, it's an old wooden top that I've ended up putting like a, this is a vinyl one, so I can just peel it off. It doesn't nothing really sticks. So if there's some bits that you forget where you've got to because you looked away for a second and you're recording a YouTube video, you can go over bits, it'll be fine. If you make too much of a puddle though, you will find it will lift, like I said, and then you'll end up with just kind of puddles of ballast washing away. So try not to get it too wet. At the moment, the combination of the fairy liquid or the detergent that's in here and the isopropols, meaning that when I'm putting this in, it's, you know, it's not, you know, it's not struggling to get in. The water retention isn't there, so it's working its way through the ballast. So yeah, I'll get all of this done and I'll talk to you after that. All the glue has been applied. Really happy. Some little bits have kind of run away and done their own thing, but once this is dry, I'll be able to have a little look at it. But we could talk about it a bit more in the next episode. I was thinking, oh, you know, wait a few days and I can talk about it. But really, I'll be wanting to move on to the next thing. So thank you to my channel members that have been watching, my patrons, my subscribers, everyone that comments. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what your experiences of ballasting are and what you think of it. And also hit that like button. I really appreciate the likes that come on. They help boost the videos as well as the comments. The more the videos grow, the more motivation I have for each video that I do. Thank you so much for watching so far and watching to the end of the video. Take care, see you on the next episode, and goodbye.